and didn't come with it. So I haven't been able to watch the council meetings for a while since you made your switch. I was under the impression by reading in the paper that there was going to be no quality change. To me, that was a terrible quality change, just my opinion. I guess I have a problem with your bidding. One of the FOIAs I contracted a long time ago was over the 117 West Cass Street property. I was really concerned about your little propaganda park down here and all the changes you're making and how it affects different things that I do when I'm involved in some of the festivals and things. And I just don't understand that you convinced the DDA to buy 117 West Cass Street to make it a convenience for the city, but yet you're going to pay to have it torn down? Makes no sense to me at all. Why doesn't the DDA pay to knock it down? Or have you bought it yet and now it's your building, so you have to knock it down? I guess I just don't understand that. Kind of fits right in with what they were talking about earlier, and here we are again, back to no ethics, so therefore we have no way to govern what we're doing or where we're headed. I've watched so many things go through here, it just amazes me that you cancel a meeting because of the dates that they fall on, and you rearrange them to fit your schedules, and then all of a sudden on a special request Marcus calls for a meeting knowing that we have 2 new people on the council and he can get a pay raise. Well, we have asked for his resignation for months and months. It just makes no, with the unfavorable things that I FOIA'd, because I did get his evaluation long before the paper. I even offered to give it to the paper because they couldn't get it from you or had to FOIA to get it. There were a couple people on the council, definitely we know who they were, that were real negative. There were a couple others that weren't so favorable of him either. So you wait for those people to not be here and you call a special meeting and you ramrod him through with a pay raise. That was pretty significant on his part. Pretty clever, I'll say. Maybe he's not as bad as we thought he was. On the hot dog thing, it's just ridiculous. It was supposedly a frivolous lawsuit, but I can remember... Okay, I've stood in this many a time and been told by you, the mayor, and by the city manager that if you don't like what we're doing, take us to court. So the man takes you to court, and this is how he ends up. It's sad. It's really sad.
My writing's not legible, but I'll sign it. I forgot to last time. Terry Harvey, Cadillac, Michigan. Trying to remember what I was going to... One reason I'd read the paper a second time, I'd forgot what I'd read the other day, and Cadillac News should be complimented on their page 3 item that tells when public meetings are. I get my mail varied over the years, but between 12:30 and 3 or 4 in the afternoon, so it's normally after I get home from work, which is usually too late to come to an early scheduled meeting. I was like 7 o'clock meetings when I was on county council or county commission, because it gave the general public an opportunity, if they got out of work at 5 or 5:30, to go home and have something to eat and clean up and still come to a meeting if they don't care to come in their work clothes. But I'd like to comment or compliment the city on the fact that under the meeting, I noticed your agenda is somewhat listed in there. And I find of 7 or 8 meetings listed in your paper, most of them have something called a TBA there. And I was trying to think what a TBA was, and I thought, well, that must be to be announced later. And I thought, well, that's odd, because these weren't emergency meetings, and most of these packets are out 4 or 5 days ahead of the meetings, so why would they have to, wouldn't they be able to announce what was going to be at the meeting? It seemed like that made it more of a closed session. And thank your paper for putting that. I think there's probably a lot of people read that. and get some benefit out of it. The other thing, the Cadillac City logo, I always used to, as a kid, like the one that said Cadillac City Equality. I thought that was neat. I never understood the bee's nest that was under it. But most people are going to notice the large letter of Cadillac, and when you're talking about the fluorine plant here, I didn't think you were old enough to have known anything about that. But one of the graduating classes from Cadillac Senior High put the plaques in the Lakefront Park, which I'm sure you're all aware of. I don't know if you've read all of them, but the one across from the library refers to the fact that the White House, the fluorine for the White House, came from that site behind, I think it's called Family Fair now, or the library. Used to be a maple fluorine plant in there. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I went to school here through grade school. History was never a great subject until I got older. Now I'm interested. But I don't recall everybody all through grade school, junior high, or senior high ever mentioning the fact in history that the fluorine for the White House came from Cadillac, Michigan. So Cadillac isn't exactly not well known. And when you talked about Cadillac cars, I don't know if
Mr. Harvey,
you knew.
you need to have your wrap
Okay.
up as soon as you can.
The first truck named Cadillac was produced over here on Haines Street. That turned into an Acme truck because of legal problems. But so the word Cadillac is famous. Thank you.
Louis Richardson, still 401 East Terrace, just a few other things. The trailer's been there about 20 years, and we're also the eyes and ears of Cadillac down there at the time. We call the police too many times throughout the year when we see drug activity, fights, things like that going on. So that also helps the city. It also takes about 150 people a year to Detroit Tigers that are special needs. And we've been using the same application. If it's not filled out, I come in and ask Fran once a year, see the old app, and I just copy the same thing. If it's not filled out right, that's my bad. The health department has us down as a 501c3 and underneath DBSA. And why do we wait a year? Since it was last year, if we violated this, the only thing I can see is it was election year. Don't want to cause waves. And during the 501c3, the violation, the I FOIA'd because of violation of Open Meetings Act. There was no minutes to prove anything to the judge. So what came back was the council was acting illegally by not keeping minutes for 366 days. And so I think I should be thanked for that. And either the 24,000 is just really inflated, or Mr. Homier is just grossly overpaid. Thank you.
Douglas W. Mellema. First of all, I'd like to address last spring when the judgment was made, we went into closed session. Now, obviously, I cannot say what went on in closed session at that time, but I would, once again, if we're looking for transparency and honesty, release those minutes of that. Release them. I have no problem. Anything that I went in closed session, that be released to the public. I don't have a problem with what I say and what I say in closed session. It's a citizen's community. It's not yours. Second thing is, last spring, once again, why wasn't the application pulled? Same application. Same application. Political gear. That's the answer. The other thing is, Mike, your argument that he filled out the application. I was president of the Cadillac Area College Consortium. It was a 501. The consortium didn't fill out grant applications. I filled it out as an agent. To say he filled it out, so therefore Louis involved, is ridiculous.
The nonprofit organization doesn't fill it out. And it's the same one. If you had a problem with it this year, why don't you have a problem with it all the years before? Second thing is, as far as the judge saying that it was harassment, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know how he could determine that when he didn't have any minutes and he didn't have any tape. I don't know how they determined that. And as far as frivolous, once again, hey, you know, if it was so frivolous, then release that information to the citizens, because it's meaningless if I understand the word frivolous. Once again, it's political revenge, and let's call it for what it is.
I'm still Sue Mellema, so I'm not going to fill all this out again. First thing, as a former art teacher, I can tell you that having a graphic along with letters, print, is really important, because most of us are either predominantly left-brained or we're predominantly right-brained. And your lettering will appeal to those who are left-brained individuals, but the graphic part, the swishes, will appeal to or get the attention of those who are right-brained. So that's all I have to say on that one. There is not to be any response to public comments, from my understanding. Yet tonight, for your convenience, you allowed a rebuttal comment from both the city manager and the city attorney. Why is that? Here again, there's a lack of consistency. You need to follow the rules you've set in place. It's not okay to respond only when you want to. Either you respond to all public comments presented, or you respond to none of the public comments presented. It's not a choice. Okay, seeing no one else, we'll close public comment. Does anyone have anything for good of the order this evening?
I just want to correct something. And I don't necessarily take issue with the public's right to comment, except when they state facts that simply are not true. And I'll read, just for the benefit of the public, what Judge Fagerman had to say with respect to the lawsuit, which is why it became an issue. Judge Fagerman wrote, Richardson failed to produce any evidence to support his claims. It was clear that he had not taken any action to carefully review the minutes which he claims support count 2. That is so clear that it was conceded in response to this motion. That was the city's motion for summary disposition. As to the two other claims, Richardson indicated his subjective belief and that he had received information from third parties yet unidentified. Discovery in this matter is complete, and no evidence is provided that Richardson attempted to locate those third parties or conduct any interviews or discovery with respect to the knowledge of Cadillac City Council members, Cadillac staff, or the firemen reported to have heard certain statements. It is obvious that there was no reasonable inquiry made as to the claimed facts. Richardson's self-serving affidavit that he did not file the claim to harass Cadillac is not borne out by his deposition testimony. A full reading of the deposition testimony reveals his hostility towards the process, even to the extent that he thought it was unnecessary that he should have to provide his deposition or support his claim in any fashion. The only conclusion that can be reached is that the filing of this complaint was intended to inappropriately harass Cadillac. As a result, Cadillac has awarded its costs to defend this matter, including actual attorney fees. And what is important and why you have this indebtedness provision, particularly in this case, is because the rest of the taxpayers had to pay the cost to defend what was found to be a frivolous complaint, based nothing on anything except for speculation, innuendo, and gossip, which is part of the problem. Mr. Richardson and his attorney had ample opportunity to stop this lawsuit. I urged them several times to do it and to walk away from it, that there was no evidence to support any of his claims. They failed to do so, despite repeated requests to do so. Ultimately, the judge found it frivolous and awarded sanctions as permitted under the court rules. That's undisputed.
Does anyone have anything for good of the order?
I'd like to make a motion to add this to agenda on June 6th, the review of his permit, and see if we could make a stipulation for the amount.
Stipulation for the amount.
That's owed to allow him to have the permit.
And disregard the statute?
We wouldn't be disregarding it. We'd be making an exception.
But that's what we were just chastised for doing. I'm not hearing any support for that motion. I have a good of the order thing. Okay, cool. Good of the order. Youth Council meets on Wednesday at 4 o'clock right here, and it will be probably the final meeting where our current mayor, Cecilia Dubrovic, will be sitting, presiding over that meeting as she's heading off to college. So if anyone wants to come by and congratulate her, we'd love to have anybody come by.
Just wanted to mention that perhaps one of the very largest special events that our community has is coming up June 4th and 5th, I believe. All the details on the back of the Blitz Cadillac are available online at CadillacMichigan.com, and would encourage people to check it out there.
I also would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of the volunteers that came out a week ago Saturday to help the city staff clean up our parks. And I think we had a record number of people that came out for that event. And a thank you to Tara and all of the staff that came out that day and helped out those volunteers. It made a huge difference and gave the community a facelift. And I just want to let people know, don't ever think for a second that your volunteering doesn't make a difference in this community, because it really does.
Mayor Filkins, I just thought of something for good of the order. I had the opportunity to meet with a representative from the North Boulevard Marina Association, I believe is their name, and last week, and I became educated on what this group is doing to assist with residents being able to have docks over on North Boulevard in the Kenwood area, and I know they're looking at some possible adjustments or very slight modifications to the process next year, and I've talked to Marcus about it, and I think it would be a good, and I've talked to him about it, the representative Dan McEwen, and I think it would be a good idea to have him and maybe some of the other authority board members come and give us an education sometime on what that process is and how they took it upon themselves to really make I think a really winnable solution to what started out as a very contentious issue that the city had with those property owners, and they've been doing it for 10 years, and talk about volunteer work.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to do that next month.
Anyone else? If not, we need to go to...
Yeah, do a closed session.
Make a motion to adjourn to closed session to consult with a city attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with the City of Cadillac versus Michulate Corporation, Wexford County Circuit Court Case Number 14-25602-CH for the reason that an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigation or settlement position of the city.
Support. Okay. Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Wolfow.
Yes.
Meinhardt.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Is John's notebook over there?